Welcome to Jumping Through Hoops, the podcast show which finds hope for a better quality of life beyond mental unwellness and addictions. So I'm Amy McAuley, the host of the show, and I warmly welcome you to join me and my guests as we uncover the secret sauce to move from surviving to thriving in life. Hi guys, it's Amy from Jumping Through Hoops, and I'm really excited to introduce you to this episode that I have today with the amazing Gareth Edwards, who is, I will introduce you to him. He is such an absolute tonic in life. I met Gareth a few years ago, and yeah, just an absolute ray of sunshine in this life. Gareth is a writer, a musician, and a songwriter. And he really does add incredible sparkle into this world. When I first met him, I met him at a laughter yoga conference, and I have never been in so many stitches in my whole life. He is amazing, such an amazing guy with the biggest of hearts, and I'm so honoured that you're here today with me, Gareth, to have a chat with me about mental health, because that's something that I know is something that you are very passionate about. So thank you so much, Gareth, for joining me today on my podcast. And I'd love you to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, and introduce yourself.
Wow, how do I follow that? Thank you, Amy. That was some billing. So my name's Gareth, and as you can hear by the accent, I hail from the UK. So I was born and bred in Manchester, in the north of England. But my family's very much Celtic, Scottish, Irish, Welsh, like a lot of us. And I moved to New Zealand in 2002 for a year, and I've been here ever since. And I've got a real passion for good mental health, well-being, inclusion, just all the good stuff, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and what is it that you love doing? Like, what do you love to do in this world?
My absolute moment of joy is writing songs. That's the bit. Yeah, playing instruments, guitar, piano, and writing songs and being in the flow of that real beautiful creativity. That's where my most joy is. But hot on the heels, really enjoy a good laugh and doing the laughter yoga, and really enjoy being with community, being with people, particularly people on a similar journey. People are sort of like yourselves, looking for more well-being, looking for more joy and happiness, and wanting to contribute. I really like people who want to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. And you certainly do that. I've had the privilege of having you write a few songs. I think you wrote a couple of songs for my children when they were a bit younger. And when we were doing our hooping challenge, you certainly sparkled up that challenge with all your wonderful daily songs. This guy has an amazing talent for that. You really do. That is your light. That is definitely the light that you shine in this world. It's amazing. It's great to see. So I'd love to hear about, share with us your personal journey in your life. Like, tell us a bit more about yourself, Gareth.
Yeah, sure. So I guess for me, a lot of what I've been doing for the last 20 years came from some really tough stuff back in my mid-20s. And so around about 25, after many years of tripping the light fantastic with the chemical joy, I ended up quite depressed, and then ended up taking antidepressants, then getting quite high and getting manic. And in my 25th year, I was hospitalized, diagnosed bipolar, and that was a massive, just such an impact. To be honest, I'm only really seeing how much of an impact that is now, 20 years on. And I came out of there really determined to be well and happy in myself, but also wanted to share some of that, wanted to make sure that I could share some of my own learnings and some of my own path from that point.
Absolutely, because quite a shock for you to hear that about yourself, that you've got bipolar, and this is something. Did they tell you this is something that you're going to be living with for the rest of your life, or?
Oh yeah. So I got the usual prognosis, the forecast that they give you, and they told me all sorts of things that I found incredibly, just incredibly restrictive. Like you're going to be on meds for the rest of your life. You should sort of lower your expectations so you don't feel, too much stress and strain in life. even down to, you might want to think about whether you have a family and have children or not, and the risks that there might be to my well-being and theirs, and all sorts of horrible stuff.
Wow.
And then, for a long time, I believed it. I bought into it for a good couple of years. And then, as the years rolled by and I didn't end up back in hospital, which is a very common experience for people with bipolar, they tend to go in and out of hospital for quite a while. And I managed to stay out of hospital. And over the years after that, I thought, actually, maybe I can, live the life I want to live, not live the life they think would be safe.
Yes, absolutely. And how's that been for you since that then, Gareth?
It's been amazing. It's been truly amazing, especially the last maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Really reclaimed a lot of who I was, before that year of doom, and really strove to find the things. So, like the laughter yoga is a really good example.
Yeah.
So, for those who haven't heard of laughter yoga, it's a very simple practice of, laughter. It's a breath practice, a pranayama practice is how it's called in the yoga circles. And when I discovered it, obviously it was great joy, but in a hospital environment, the laughter becomes a symptom.
Yeah.
So, at the risk of oversimplifying, if you don't laugh enough, then you're depressed, and if you laugh too much, you're manic. So to reconnect with just the joy of a good, hearty laugh was so amazing. And I knew in the very first session I ever took part in, I knew that it was something I had to learn and share. It was just gold.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I first heard about laughter yoga, it was something that it appealed to that sort of humor side of myself. I didn't understand what it was really about, but the healing aspect with laughter is quite amazing. And for people who do suffer from mental health, even that forced laughter in laughter yoga, that kind of like, it's just the benefits are, you'll never walk away from a session feeling bad, will you?
No, you do the forced laughter to get to the real laughter, and the real laughter, so many people tell me after a session they haven't laughed like that since they were kids.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. I remember we did that. We did a session together once, and we had a few people together in the room, and it's that free laughter, the sort of beginning laughter where you just like ha 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 ho ho ho, but then when you, as you say, you peel back that real laughter, it's like I don't remember laughing like that without narcotics before. Like that was a real, I am going to be sick, this laughter is so intense, but the feeling of relief after, the feeling of elation after, it's so powerful. And it's a really natural antidepressant, isn't it?
It is, and it's really beautiful for people like us who I've got experience with substances.
Yeah.
Because particularly in those early days, that was joy seeking, that was pleasure seeking.
Yeah.
All the while, we've got the best chemicals ever. There's nothing better than our own endorphins. There's nothing better than our own dopamine and serotonin. So I think for people like us who chased chemical pleasure, to find that natural buzz, and as well, you get that through exercise and all sorts of places. It's better than any drug.
It is,
and cleaner,
way better.
And, beautiful.
I love that. It's such a powerful tool to share with the world, Gareth. Because, like you say, when people are, and I'm sure we're not alone. There's millions of people who are seeking that buzz, and thinking that the only way they can get it is through alcohol, through sugar, through narcotics, through drugs. But you're right, like we've got access to these natural drugs every single day, which is why I do what I do with my exercise, and the laughter, it's so powerful. So thank you for sharing that tool, because it really is. And I think people can access laughter yoga on things like YouTube, or have a look up in their local area for like laughter yoga instructors.
Definitely. Yeah, it's all out there. I've got a 1-minute laughter challenge on my website where...
Oh, brilliant. Share your website.
So my website is Gareth Edwards, but with a hyphen. So Gareth-Edwards.com. And within there, it's a 1-minute video of me laughing, but doing that classic, starting off faking it till you make it, and then, there's a release around about, 35 seconds or something. It just goes. And it's just gorgeous. Yeah.
It is. I dare you guys to go and watch that and try not to laugh. This man is infectious, like literally infectious. And honestly, like that is the thing, Gareth. It's like, what did I do the other day? I can't remember where I was. Oh, I know where it was exactly that. I was taking my daughter to netball, and it was raining outside. It was 7:30 in the morning, and I knew that the whole morning was going to be about standing outside getting really, really wet. And let's just say I wasn't in the best of moods. So I got out my app and I made this video on an app called TikTok, and I made this video, and honestly I was like, I do crack myself up. I watched the video a few times and I laughed out loud. It was like so great. We've got to be able to laugh at ourselves. But and then honestly, 5 or 10 minutes later, I just felt so good. I felt like, yeah, my mood's lifted. I'm ready. I can handle this. This is all good. It was so simple. You know, we could easily access, you know, it's at our fingertips. We've got a phone all the time. We could look up a funny video. Who's your favourite comedian? Who's your favourite, you know, somebody who just makes you laugh? Gareth Edwards. Go and look on his website. Go and just laugh. And instantly you're lifted. And I love that. What a powerful tool, Gareth. Thank you for sharing that. It's so awesome. So, you know, you've obviously faced some really big challenges in your life, and you know, being diagnosed at 25 with bipolar, that's massive. So how do you, like, what do you do now? Like you said, you sort of turned your life around, and you know, the last 5 years have been amazing. Obviously you moved to New Zealand, but what do you do? Like, what's your kind of like secret sauce apart from laughter? Like, how do you keep yourself, you know, on top of things mentally? Like, what do you do?
I think the biggest thing for me, it's a couple of things, but the one that really, really kicks in is I'm a real fan of designing the life to suit your kind of temperament. You know, often, you know, we feel quite trapped in the life that we've got. And I think, you know, in some ways we're both really blessed because we moved away from our hometown and home country where, you know, lots of people tell you how to live your life when you grow up around family and friends and community. But yeah, really designing the life that suits you. So for me, that means I work independently. I work freelance because I'm not really great at, you know, knocking it out 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. So I like to go more with the energy of project work. But some people really love the routine Monday to Friday. So definitely horses for courses. So designing that life that suits you is a real key one. And it's a constant work in progress.
Yes.
You know, my biggest challenge now is, you know, I moved to the South Island 3 years ago, and they have winters here. You know, I lived in Auckland for 10 years, and winter for me as a northerner, you know, you put socks on for a couple of months and you tough it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away with that in Auckland, and we had 5 years in Raglan. You know, there'd be a couple of days it would be a bit fierce, and then the rest was reasonably mild.
Yeah.
But here, they've got proper winters. And I don't know about you, Amy, but I've done enough of winter, you know.
Yes.
We've
had our fair share.
Yeah, and I had a year in Aberdeen, and that was like, that winter was astonishing, you know.
Yes.
So for me, getting back to that, adjusting my life to the seasons has been a real learning, and it still is. You know, how to cope with winter blues and that seasonal affective stuff. You know, and seeing it coming. Yeah.
So tell me about that, because that's a big thing for many people, and I can absolutely relate to that, Gareth, because, you know, I know that the times in my life when I've really dipped have been very seasonal. But, you know, winter is such a powerful time to really drain your energy and have you feel, you know, it's the darkness, it's the cold, it's all of those things. So it's many people can relate to that, and many people suffer it. Well, maybe they don't even know they're suffering it. Maybe they haven't recognised that. So what do you do? You're in the South Island. You're facing the winter. You're dealing with what you dealt with in the UK, pretty much the coldness and the darkness. So what do you do? How do you consciously help yourself, Gareth?
I think the main thing is that I kind of stopped fighting it. Mm-hmm. It's a really natural instinct to hibernate. You know, our lives are circadian. You know, we go in circles, night and day, summer and winter. You know, there's a part of us, particularly when we live away from nature, you know, we lose track of that cycle. you know, because we've got electric lights and heaters and such, but our natural body rhythms are there. So a real big part of it is leaning into that. So I definitely sleep more in the winter. I saw one of your wonderful newsletters talking about the power of naps.
Yes.
You know, certainly huge in the winter, like just a little brief period of warmth and unconsciousness could do a great power of good.
Definitely.
You know, I eat a little bit more, I get a bit chunkier, you know. And part of it for me is like riding the wave of the energy. So I'm a musician and a writer. And when you got that instinct to create in that way, if you're not doing it, you sort of punish yourself. Like, why aren't I doing the things that I know I like and, you know, enjoy? It's because it's winter.
Yeah.
So rather than kind of hammer myself on those things, I'm like, okay, it's not happening now, so I'll rest. But then when it is happening, you know, I'm working on a new song at the moment. I must have done about 9 hours on it the other day because it was flowing.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it since, you know. So just allow things to come and go with a bit more grace and not be mean to myself.
Oh, I love that. That sings to me so much. I love that. I think that is one of the strong reasons that people kind of they beat themselves. One of the reasons that people do suffer from depression is that whole beating yourself up and thinking I should be doing this, I should be doing that, and not being in touch with listening to what their bodies are telling them. I really love that you're listening to your body, and when your body says rest more, totally relate to that. The sleeping and the napping and the consciously making the decision that it's okay if I don't feel like doing this today. It's okay. You know, it's almost like having that kind of counselor on your own shoulders. It's you're giving yourself that permission to be human and to realize that you're not always, you know, this too shall pass. This isn't going to be like this forever, but this is just a moment in time and my body is crying out for rest. If you think about it before, you know, when we've charged through things in the past, we've like, you know, got to get this done, you know, really force things. And I believe that's one of the reasons that we end up quite depressed is because we're fighting the whole thing, you're not in that flow. And I think that's...
Yeah, I'm ultimately fighting ourselves, you know?
Yes.
So I mean, it's exactly that. So one of my tricks, you know, and I've had this for so long now, I've forgotten it was a trick. But one of the tricks is sidestepping that double whammy. So you feel like crap and then you feel like crap about feeling like crap.
Yeah.
That second level of feeling crap is totally unnecessary. You already feel like crap.
Yeah.
You don't need to over egg that pudding with more feeling about crap. If you feel like crap, you feel like crap, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, don't get into that. For me anyway, I try not to get into that secondary level of crap feeling.
Yeah.
And some of that is sort of diversionary stuff, you know. So, you know, singing or movies or books or rest or walks or whatever.
Yeah.
As soon as I see that coming, I'm like, wait a minute, I already feel bad enough. I don't need to go to another layer of feeling bad.
Yeah. And that's very, very powerful for you so that you can, it's almost like you're observing yourself there. It's almost like you're taking yourself out of your own body and seeing what's happening and then being preventative before you, because you've been down that route before. So you know that actually I'm not going to do this to myself. I'm going to be kinder. I'm going to be gentler. I'm not going to worry if I'm eating a little bit more. I'm not going to be worried if I'm going to rest a bit more. If I want to watch a Netflix film, I'm going to do that. You know, I can really relate. Yesterday, for example, I used to be such a go-getter. Every day I'd have a really high standards for myself. But, you know, over the last few years, I've definitely taken that pressure off. And, you know, yesterday I had done a class in the morning. I came home and I just had things I needed to do. But I was like, you know, I just feel like there was no one in the house. It was bliss. There was peace and quiet. It was like so beautifully quiet. And I was like, fire on, cover on, Netflix on, comfort food out, job done. And I felt $1 million after for having done that. You know, and today I've got a little bit more energy to go and do the things that I want to do. So it's like you just got to listen to that whole thing. If you've got the ability to not have to fight through it all the time, it's
yeah. And I think that comes back to designing your life. I don't know, there'll be lots of people listening to this going, oh, that's easy for you guys. You work for yourself or you work from home. And you know, and I'm totally sympathetic to that. And I think some of it is, and possibly not this time of year, but as spring approaches and summer comes, it's like, okay, what do I need to put in place to design my life so it suits my temperament? You know, and you know, for me, it's been 20 years of every year sort of chipping away at that. And you know, trying to give myself the best chance. You know,
I love that. And you're really serving out your purpose. I think a lot of people are still in that sort of where I can relate to that with that 9 to 5 job, and that was a huge part of my depression. You know, at the time I had alcohol addictions and, you know, eating disorders and depression, postnatal, all the things at that time. And it's no coincidence that I wasn't living my life designed for me. It was like I was taking a bus to work every day. I was going to a job that had no meaning to me. It wasn't giving me anything back. It just felt like I was existing and surviving, not thriving. And, you know, you're right. Like, that maybe is something that people can think about long term. It's like, you know, is it this that's bringing me down? Is it the fact that I you know, I'm doing this, you know, job? Is that bringing me down? It's like identifying what really in their life are, you know, bringing them down, and knowing that we have the ability to change things if we really, really want to.
Yeah, and a bit like I was saying at the start, you know, like, I can't imagine. I can barely tell you what I'm doing tomorrow. So I can't do the whole 3-year plan. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? You know, I do some visioning now and again. But mostly what I try and do is make it more manageable for me. So let's go to New Zealand for a year. And you know what it's like. You've done that trip. You like, you sit in the UK and go, gosh, that's a long way away. And how will I survive? And who will I know? And I don't have any friends. And, you know, so you go through all that. So for me to get over that, I say, well, let's just do it for a year. If it's not great, we'll come back. So most of my big leaps have been, let's do this for a year and then see how we go. Because a year's kind of, you know, kind of easier to think of than forever, you know? So that helps me sort of make it less like final decision kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It just kind of makes you feel it's less overwhelming, and it means you're more likely to take the action because it feels more doable. It's more actionable, isn't it?
Yeah, and for years, you know, certainly when I was in the Auckland, you know, rat race, for years and years and years, I just held on to the desire. So I couldn't action much. I had a young family and a big mortgage and yada, 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 all that stuff that impinges on us or impinged on me. And so for a long time, I just was accepting of the fact that I wanted something different. You know, even though I didn't feel particularly empowered to do it then, I was like, I never lost sight of the fact that I knew that I wasn't in the most favourable set of circumstances.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things for me, and it's great in winter time as well, I have to schedule some time in nature. And not just like a day trip, fine. And I'm really blessed to live right by a beautiful beach, and you know, lots of us do in New Zealand. That's great. That's like a top up. But for me, every, I don't know, let's call it 4 to 5 weeks, I have to have a night under the stars. I have to.
That's amazing.
And I'm doing it this weekend. I'm getting back in my little camper van and heading out. It'll be bloody cold. But I just know it's like a little reset for me.
That's awesome. Know? I think we all have, I mean, nature is just powerful. Like, I find nature is extremely healing. And, you know, some people are drawn to forests, to the trees, or some people are drawn to the water. Some people are both. But there's such a power for our mental health to be in nature. I totally agree with you. I don't know about the ebb and flow of the sea. It just puts things into perspective, or it just feels more freeing, or it just feels, you know, it's like, I just feel nature has always been such a, and living and being in a city before. So I used to live in a city in Scotland, and I didn't really have access to kind of beaches, or that's me. My absolute love is the sea. So, you know, I feel I can breathe. I feel I can really replenish when I'm near the sea. So I can really understand what you're saying there. And I love that you kind of plan that, Gareth. That's important as well. It's like, you know, we know things that we love to do. You know, remember back in the UK, or whenever you do, you plan a holiday, you go on holiday. When you're on holiday, you say, man, I should do that more often. I love it, you know. And so it's like, but then sometimes you just forget to make it happen. but you know that this is something that literally lifts your energy, it replenishes you, it lifts your mental health. It's like refueling yourself, isn't it?
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. And I have got really good at either looking for opportunities. So, I'm a sucker for a workshop or a retreat, or, I know you guys do those wonderful retreats out west.
Yeah.
I don't go to those things because necessarily it's like, oh, that content looks good or that title appeals to. I'm like, I just need to go somewhere.
Yes.
Wherever I go, part of the benefit, and part of the benefit is getting out to West Auckland, having the beautiful food that your husband cooks. Some of the magic is in the facilitators, but some of it is just that break from your day-to-day routine. So I look out for them. I'm like, I'll do this, I'll do that. And again, there'll be people listening who haven't got the privilege of time and money that maybe I have.
Yeah.
But I've engineered my life for it to be that way. I spent a lot of time, I probably spent 5 to 7 years chipping away at designing the life I need.
Yeah.
And I'm still doing it really. Every year I make adjustments to that. Because one of the things, and people who maybe been hospitalized or had, a lot of impact from mental illness or addiction.
Yeah.
I know the consequences if I don't.
Yes.
The consequences are catastrophic for me.
Yeah.
So it's not even really a question of should I. It's like, well, we all know where this goes if you don't.
Absolutely.
And that's not a pity party. It's just a pragmatic thing of, if I want to keep myself alive and connected and being able to do things, it just has to be. Because the other path is pills and pillows, and
you've experienced enough pain to know, and that's like I can relate to that as well. You've experienced your pain, and it's like now you've become the ambulance at the top of the hill as opposed to the ambulance at the bottom of the hill. And I love that. I think that's what you're doing, and it's like you know yourself well enough to know that this needs to happen. It's just as important as eating, as breathing. It's all of the things. This is your preventive. This is how you keep yourself above the line, and it's brilliant that you've identified that, so you can be preventative rather than kind of dealing with the aftermath of it.
And one of the things I'm exploring this year, I've done it the other couple of winters I've been here. So, the winter blues get a bad rep. I think they need a bit better marketing, because it is tough, and I don't minimize how hard it is. And certainly I don't experience it as hard as some of my friends who really do, struggle at this time of year.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think the value of depression or low mood or that kind of experience is it makes us really gentle, tender, and sensitive.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm looking at this year is, can I use that sensitivity to go and explore, some of the things that, happened in the past and unresolved trauma and, all that stuff that we kind of put in a box and stash away because we need to be functional. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be a little bit sad and distressed, I might as well go and tap in to some of those underlying things. And then hopefully, I give them a little spruce up and a little clean out, and they stop shaping my life sort of invisibly.
Yeah.
So there's a gift there for me. Yeah.
I love that. I think I think we're on this kind of healing path, especially when you've had trauma like depression or things like that. Like, it's a healing journey, isn't it? And all of these things can help towards healing that part of us that's often just buried in the carpet, like kind of just pushed away. It's too hard. It's in the too hard pile. It's like it keeps coming up and rearing its ugly head. It's like, dealing with the matters. It's kind of like counselling for me years ago. It's like, rather than just avoid, it's not going to go away by itself, but by taking action and sort of healing through it, it's like it's going to help you long term to kind of finally put those things to rest.
Definitely, because I know in spring and summer I'll just be bouncing around the place, jumping in the sea and having fun, and I love that part of my character. But I know there's a gentler side as well, and that old cliche of you've got to feel it to heal it. And in spring and summer I'm not accessing it as strongly. It's not as present for me, some of that underlying pain. But now, while it's there, it's like, well, if you're going to be here, Why don't we snuggle down under a blanket and get to grips with what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. I love that. That's so good. But Gareth, you've written a book.
I have, yes.
You have. You're an author. So tell us about your book.
Yeah, so I've written a book. It's got an unusual title. So the title is called The Procrastinator's Guide to Killing Yourself. And the reason I wrote it started life as a blog. And we do a lot of work here and around the world on suicide prevention. And certainly in those mid-20s, suicide was a very strong reality for me. So it's really a reflection of my personal journey with that in my 20s and some of the learnings that I got from having that repeated experience of wanting to kill myself. The main tip or trick is in the title. So I talk about, rather than denying the pain that you're in, rather than denying that urge to want to kill yourself, you accept it, but you just say, I'll do it later. So you create a bit of a delay. Because for me, this sense that what I was feeling was bad or wrong just made it even worse. It's like that secondary thing I was talking about before. I already felt bad, and then I felt bad for feeling bad.
Yeah.
So to sort of soften that, it's like, well, that is your instinct at the moment. Just don't do it now. So procrastinate, put it off. And then in that little bit of space where you're not freaking out over, many weeks, that space became bigger and became a real fertile ground for me to, again, have that witness mentality. That's what the yogis call it, watch and be like, wow, you're pretty upset right now. Or you're pretty, distressed, or, those thoughts look really unusual, and have no judgment of them. I guess that's the key. It's just like, that's what's happening for you. So, watch it, learn from it. And then I guess I then share 5 of the things that I did over time that got me to a place where that suicidal thinking wasn't as distressing. And even now, 20 years on, I'd still say it comes and goes.
Yeah.
For me now, after 20 years, it is a springboard. It's like, wow, if you're really thinking that there's no better life, then some shit's going to change.
Absolutely.
And you can't, you often don't feel that when you're really in the grips of it. But now, if I see that coming, if I see those thoughts and ideas and feelings coming back, I'm like, whoa, that's like a warning bell for me. I'm like, what's going on? What's happening underneath? Let's have another crack at it. Let's give it another tweak.
Yeah.
And then, I share 5 of the things that I did. And, they're in a sequence, but they're more like a spiral. Because every time you come round, you get a sort of different view of the same stuff.
Yeah.
So,
that's really powerful. And that was, you had that book, that's been out for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I released it 2 years ago. It's a very short book. So I wrote the blog for people who were literally, so I felt there wasn't a lot of information for people who, are right in that moment of staring at the abyss and didn't want to reach out to a friend or a colleague or ring a helpline. They were just with it. They were just in it and with it. And so I wrote this little blog, and people seem to like it. They seem to like the bluntness of it. Like even the title, they're like, that's that really sung out to me. So I kept the title for the book. The book takes an hour to read. There's an audio version if you like this Coronation Street style accent. It's meant to be short. It's meant to be, really simple language. A lot of what we do in mental health is jargon things up and make it inaccessible. And I think a lot of, for my own well-being and for lots of people I've worked with, it's not rocket science. It really isn't.
No.
So really the simple things that make a difference. And I know you know that from, the work with the hoops and with the coaching.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need someone to remind us how simple it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share a link with this podcast with you, how they could access that book, because I think that book could be absolute gold for so many people who can relate to your story, Gareth. So thank you for sharing that. And just on the topic of, you're like, do you have, like, you shared obviously in your book, you share about the five things that kind of help you. But you know how a lot of people have like kind of daily practices, and I know myself, like I've introduced quite a number of daily practices, like kind of gratitude and meditation and things that really help me, and obviously exercise, but that really help my mental health. And it's like a preventive. It's like that whole. Is there any one or two habits or anything that you do on a daily basis that really helps you? Like,
Definitely, definitely, and and again, you just go out and give everything a try and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I have a lot of physical pain sometimes with backache and shoulders and all the rest of it. So stretching and yoga, I've got a routine that I do very, very gentle. You wouldn't even call it yoga. It's more like just rolling around on the floor.
That's good.
But I try and do that most days of the week. I'm definitely a fan of, that old thing of that first bit of the day, like not getting caught up in all the drama of things.
Yeah.
So the phone doesn't go on until I've had a bit of a stretch. I don't just jump into my day. And I know you're a big fan of that sacred time that a lot of people call it,
Yeah.
It's a real fertile time. So carving that out. And I'm a fan of meditation and all sorts. I'm really agnostic.
Yes.
I like the guided stuff, I like the chakra stuff, I like the Buddhist stuff, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
If it gives me a break from myself, I'm in.
Yeah. I love it. Is spirituality played a part in your healing, Gareth, do you think?
Oh, a huge part. Huge part, And again, really sort of open to all sorts. I got very into yoga and Hinduism, and I'm currently on a bit of a mission to discover our culture. Our background is Celts, and Druids. I'm doing a course on Druidry. So I'll look for it wherever I can find it. There seems to be some universals, and I think that connection to nature is such a no-brainer. Certainly I don't know what your experience is, but for me, coming to New Zealand and working with Maori and working with Polynesian people who talk about the land in a way that I'd never heard, and over the years, it just sort of kept coming back to this, this connection to nature, to Father Sky, Mother Earth, to spirit. And then I find myself going back to the UK, and I landed in Ayrshire last year. I went back for a trip and visited some friends there. And I was like, oh, I feel good here. I feel like I've been here before. Never been to Ayrshire before.
Yeah.
But that's just that connection to a place.
Definitely.
So I know there's spirituality there. I'm not a particularly religious person.
Yeah.
But I now enjoy the idea of gods, particularly all these Hindu gods and all these Celtic gods. It's like they're kind of like external representations of things that exist within us. I think that's how I see them. Yeah. So I enjoy playing with them. And yoga's got such a rich variety of things. So I do the stretching, but I love the kirtan, which is the yoga singing. Yeah. I love the breath work, the pranayama, which is where laughter yoga sits. There's a whole wealth of treasures out there, often in indigenous-based approaches.
Yes. That's fabulous, because these are things that people can really bring into their daily life. It doesn't need to be long, does it? It doesn't need to be an hour length of yoga. It can be a few minutes, or a few minutes in nature, or it's like, and that connection, it's like it doesn't need to be long, but it's like creating in that time for yourself, creating that space where you can actually bring this stuff into your life so that it becomes like a habit, it becomes something that just is what you do. It's,
definitely. And I was a big cigarette smoker, 30, 40 fags a day. I found time for that.
I know.
You know what I mean? 50 fags here and there on the bus, on the this, on the that, So, if you can find, 20 opportunities a day to have a fag, then you can find, a couple of opportunities to drop into a breath exercise.
Absolutely.
Do the laughter challenge on my website.
Yeah.
Take a moment to really notice your surroundings. I love that 5 things, something you can see, something you can hear, something you can smell, just to reconnect you with your body. Because often when we're most stressed, strained and under tension, we're just in our heads. We've forgotten we've got this beautiful body.
Yeah.
So anything that gets you just breaks that little circuit of mental anguish. Yeah, he's like, oh, like all the shit's still there, all the bad stuff is still there, but you're not kind of caught up in the drama of it. You're much more relaxed.
And therefore you handle things so much better when it does get thrown at you. You become stronger to deal with life challenges, which inevitably are going to be happening all the time for us, because it would be very dull if we didn't have any challenges in this lifetime. We're here to learn, and I guess it's a case of, but how do we keep ourselves connected? How do we keep ourselves mentally strong as well as physically strong?
For sure.
And spiritually strong as well. So, I mean, there's been so many nuggets in that. What would you say, Gareth? If you were to share one message with the world, what's your message? Like, what would you say? What would your message be to the world?
It changes over time, but currently my focus is about living life less seriously.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a distinction here between being a responsible adult, which, you know, we are most of the time.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be serious with that. We can still tap into a childlike view of it.
Yeah.
And so that's my main thing. So when, you know, my music is often quite joyful and upbeat, you know, the laughter yoga, even the writing, even though I wrote a book about suicide, there is moments of comedy within that. Because for me, some of it was funny, you know?
Yeah.
So even the most serious of topics around death and killing yourself, for me, we can still approach that with less seriousness.
Yeah.
So that's my main message. And we live life less seriously.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. I think we do take life too seriously. We take ourselves too seriously. And I think that, you know, it's my belief, I sort of see life like this now, is that this world is just like a playground, and we're here to have fun. We're here to be joyful. We're here to experience the joy. We're here to experience the fun, the laughter, of course, the other stuff as well. But you're right, the more lighthearted we can be, the more connected we're going to be, and help keep us away from the pain, and keep us towards the light much more. I love that. That's such a powerful thing. And it's often a gentle reminder daily, using the practices like laughter and all those things, but just taking life less seriously. I love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and you know, find your thing, you know? Like if you look to sing like, so when I do my gigs, you know, this is not me on a stage performing at you. Like, you know, this, I'll you know, let's all sing together. There's real power in that. People hate it. See people just go, oh, I don't want to sing. I can't sing. I've got so much judgment around singing. And then, you know, within minutes, it's such a joyful thing. Singing, dancing, moving, you know, whatever brings you that little bit of relief is gold. Like, we sort of trivialize it because we think it's childish.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, you're hula hooping. Like when we grew up, hula hoops were for little girls, right? That was it.
Yeah.
You stopped that around about 12 when you started smoking cigarettes and drinking vodka, you know?
Yeah.
And you know how much joy it brings. I mean, you've seen my attempts to learn and get better at it, feel foolish, and, you know.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to access that joyful, childlike nature, because otherwise we just restrict ourselves, you know?
Absolutely. And if I find myself going down, if I find myself thinking, it's like, what do I need to do to, like, what can I do that's going to be lighter and playful? And because I'm lucky, because I do hoop every day, I know it keeps me away from that. It's like that I get to sort of connect with my inner child on a daily basis, for sure. But you're right, it's find the thing you love. Like, everyone's different, and we've all got different things that bring us joy. So really allow yourself to seek that joy, and then bring it into your life on a daily basis, in order to kind of live your best life. And I love it. Oh, Gareth, it's been such a pleasure. You're, as I said at the beginning, you really are an absolute ray of sunshine in this life. And you know, you bring so much. You do bring so much to this world, and I do, you know, want to sort of, I'll put a link for your book, because I do believe that book is already helping many people. And you know, definitely go onto your website, go onto Gareth's website, and give yourself a laugh, even if that's the next thing you do now. Go and have a quick look at his website and have a laugh and get yourself laughing. I mean, I swear to God, like, laughter is the best medicine. And it's helped me so much in my life, and I know I think that's what bonded us in the first place, Gareth, was that kind of connection. I think it was our inner child in each other. I saw your inner child and you saw mine, and I think that's our connection. It's brilliant. Yeah. So thank you so much, dear Gareth. You're an absolute star, and have an amazing weekend under the stars.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amy. Thanks very much.
You're so welcome. Take care.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Jumping Through Hoops. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Feel free to drop me a message at amy@powerhoop.com or find out more about how I can help you on my website www.amybeingamy.com.